welcome to BackRoadRunway. I'm Stephanie. I have some fun little DIYs for us today, making them all out of camis. So the first one that I have here, I'm basing it off of the picture that is right here. Right now it's just a plain white cami. None of the camis that I have here have the lining on the inside because I think that might make it a little bit more complicated. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it to the length that I want it, and then I'm going to attempt to sew a little lettuce hem along the bottom. Okay, I think I have it to the length that I want it, so I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than the length that I want, and then I'm going to get to sewing the lettuce hem along the bottom. Okay, so I just spent the last 2 hours in an argument with my sewing machine over whether or not we were actually going to sew the lettuce hem. So we're gonna take a break on this and come back to it again, hopefully with fresh eyes on another day. Okay, so I ended up not using my own sewing machine for this part, and I actually used my housemate's Singer. So these are the settings that I used. I put it on a zigzag stitch, which is number 3 right there. I set it to the widest stitch width possible, which is 6, and then the shortest stitch length possible, which is 0.3 on this machine. Okay, so I'm just going to show you on this little scrap fabric that I have how you do the lettuce hem. So you fold the fabric over, a little hem at the bottom, and then I pinned mine, and then you put it under the machine, and then you're going to pull on both ends of the fabric. So you're going to stretch it out as much as you possibly can, and then you want one end of the zigzag to go off of the hem of the fabric. So then you end up with these tight little lettuce leaf-like part. Here I did it in a contrasting thread color so that you can actually see what the zigzag stitches look like going off of the edge. Okay, so I had just finished sewing the lettuce hem. It looks like this along the bottom. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the excess fabric from the inside. Okay, the edges are all trimmed up. Okay, so the last thing that I have left to do is to sew the little bow in the middle. So what I did was I cut a little piece of this ribbon, tied it into a cute little tiny bow, and then I just used a lighter to kind of melt the edges of it so that it doesn't unravel on me. So now I'm just going to take this and sew it right in the front middle of the shirt. Okay, so now that I've sewed the bow on, that one is done. Okay, so the next one is actually super simple. I'm just making this cami into a tube top. So I just folded over the top of the cami to the length that I want it, and I folded the bottom to the length that I wanted, and then I'm just going to give myself a little bit of room for seam allowance and sew a zigzag stitch along the top and the bottom, and then it'll be done. Okay, so I actually just marked with safety pins the top and bottom of where I want the tube top to be, and so I'm just going to use a rotary cutter to cut about a ½ inch above and below each of those safety pins so that I just have the middle piece of fabric. Okay, so now I have our piece of fabric, and I'm just going to fold it over and sew a zigzag stitch hem all the way around the top and bottom. Okay, so for this next one, I am doing the zigzag stitch again, but this time I have the width on 5 and the length on 2. So I'm just doing a zigzag stitch all along the top and bottom hems of this top. I also changed the foot to a walking foot so that it feeds the fabric through evenly and I don't get any pulls. Okay, so I actually really love how this one turned out. It's super simple, just the hem along the top and along the bottom, but it's really easy to pair with basically anything. So let's put together an outfit for this one. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to make is this little one shoulder tank top. So I took the strap that's normally here and I folded it in all the way around the outside to where I want it to be. And then I want this to go up a little bit higher, so I'm actually going to shorten this strap here as well so that it goes up a little bit higher on me. So I have folded the cami all around the top and pinned it where I want it to go. It's inside out here. And I'm going to use the same settings as I did for the previous one, the zigzag stitch with a width of 5 and a length of 2. Also, in order to make the back lay flat, I had to cut a little bit down from the strap right here on the side where I folded it over, and then I just zigzag stitched over the edges so that they don't fray. Okay, lastly, I just cut the strap from the back and I'm just going to sew it right where I want it to be at the length that I want it to be on the back of the cami. Alright, so I'm going to say this one turned out okay. I did make the straps the way that I wanted them to, but the hem along the top is not quite even, and sometimes the inside pokes out through the top. So I don't completely love how this one turned out, but I think it will still look really nice styled with a pair of jeans. Okay, so for this navy one, I want to do a little bit of ruching in the front, like the picture. And so I'm going to make it a little bit longer than what I want it to be, because when I ruche the front, it'll scrunch up a lot. So I have a safety pin right here. I'm going to cut a little bit below it for seam allowance, and then I will sew a hem along the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to save this scrap of fabric because we're going to need it to make panels inside where the ruching will go. I've pinned all the way around the bottom of the top, so now I'm just going to zigzag stitch around it. So with the leftover fabric, I cut this strip that I'm going to put down the middle of this shirt on the inside to hold the ruching. So I'm going to just fold over the ends here so that it's the length that I want it to be, and I'm going to zigzag stitch across the top and bottom so that it fits right between the length of the top and the bottom. Okay, so the cami is now inside out, and this panel is pinned to the front middle. And what I'm going to do is sew a line down this side and a line down this side. Be careful not to sew the top closed or the bottom closed, or you won't be able to put your cord through. So brief side note, I'm finding that with the walking foot, in sections of fabric that have thicker pieces and then it goes on to thinner pieces, it's better to just start on the thinner piece and go all the way up rather than trying to go over this hem, because it makes the walking foot confused and then we get like little knots like that we don't want. So I'm starting it on the smooth part, going all the way up, and then going back to the beginning to sew that little end. So now that we've sewed the panel on the inside of the front of this shirt, we're going to sew another zigzag stitch right down the middle of this panel to make 2 lanes. Okay, so now that I've finished sewing the channels, I've taken this navy ribbon here and I've pinned it right above the channels with a safety pin. And I took another safety pin and put it on the other end of the ribbon. And I'm just going to thread this ribbon all the way through the channel to the bottom. Okay, I'm taking another piece of navy ribbon that's the same length, and I am pinning it to the top of the second channel. And then I'm threading the ribbon through the other channel, just like I did on the first one. Now I have ribbons threaded through both channels, and I'm going to pull them down so that just the tops of the ribbons are sticking out, and then I'm going to sew along the top here over the ribbons to secure them in place. Now the top's finished, so I can just put it on and then scrunch it to whatever length I want and tie it in a bow at the bottom. Okay, so here's the finished product of the navy tank top. I love the little ruching in the front, and the ribbon gives it a little added texture. Let's go ahead and style this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.